Good morning, Prime Minister. Bria King from the Searchlight
Good to see
newspaper.
you, Bria.
I have a question on the topic of vaccines.
Sure.
Will the government be moving towards making vaccination for COVID-19 mandatory for workers of certain sectors? Does the current laws, or do our current laws permit for this to happen? And as it relates to the private sector, can an employee be legally terminated if they refuse to take the COVID-19 vaccine?
My answer to you in relation to the current laws, both in relation to the public sector and the private sector, that you can impose the condition that if you don't take the vaccine, you may be terminated. In the case of the both public and private sectors, the employer has a right to have a safe place of work, including a healthy place for you to work, an environment for you to work. And this is recognized at the common law. Various statute law will bolster it, but the common law is there. And there's the obligation on the part of the employee to cooperate with the employer in having a safe and healthy place for work. You see, this thing works both ways. If an employee who is vaccinated says, though I'm vaccinated, I can still get COVID, though reduced chances, but I don't feel safe among persons who are not vaccinated in a close work environment. Because the science says and the protocol says that if you are all vaccinated, you can stay within a particular area, a certain number of you, without wearing a mask. Because you manage the risk, it's highly unlikely that you will get a transmission from one to the next person. So that somebody who's vaccinated can raise the issue in a workplace where the persons are not vaccinated. And similarly, the employer can inform the employees, listen to me, if you don't take this vaccine, we are going to, you may be terminated. But they have to be reasonable in terms of the notice. Like, for instance, the state as an employer, the central government. And the advice which we have received is that, and I read a lot too, you will give a reasonable notice period, say, listen, we're planning to have persons at this or that in this work environment vaccinated, and that we'd make the vaccine accessible to you. But there's a 2-week period, you get a 4-week period in which this is going to be done. And if you refuse to take it, to do the vaccine, it will be considered that this is an act of misconduct. An act of misconduct may lead to your dismissal. So a policy and a procedural step would be formally put in place for that to be happening. And I'm having a discussion with the Office of the Attorney General on precisely this issue. But you asked me legally, and I answer you legally, and I'm now talking beyond that the employer has to be reasonable, Brianna, and the employer has to put a procedure in place. And this is acknowledged across all the common law jurisdictions. And I just saw the United States putting out they're putting out an advisory on this. on this very issue. We see Professor Alexis writing about this and speaking about this in the same terms in which I'm talking about here. We can't allow, when people traveling again, that they don't come to your hotel because your workers at the hotel are not vaccinated, that your airport workers are not vaccinated, that your port workers are not vaccinated. I mean, these are critical points. And I'm hoping that we don't have to come to that people will see sense and take up the vaccine. So I answer you in that precise manner there, both in relation to the question you ask about my understanding of the law and for certain particular areas of employment in the central government and the state sector generally.